Hi, and welcome to Miss White's math tutoring session, I guess. So we're going to talk about translations, and then we're going to talk about shrinking and stretching and reflecting or flipping. So these are all part of y equals ax minus h squared plus k. Okay, A is going to be for stretching and compressing, as well as flipping, which is also known as reflecting. These are all in the vertical. And then H is for moving things left and right. And K is for moving things up and down. Okay, so here's my parent function, y equals x squared. I already drew it. You can see that I have labeled the equation, the axes, x and y, and I've also labeled at very even intervals, so all the fives I have labeled, and then as I go up, 5, 10, 15, 20, I would keep going. So this is the parent function, and it's got some points on it. It's got points like 0, 0 right here, right? Because 0 squared is 0. 1, 1, because 1 squared, 1 squared is 1. And negative 1, 1, because negative 1 squared is positive 1, right? Negative 1 times negative 1. We've got 2, 4. 2 squared is 4. And 3 squared is 9, so 3, 9. And then we've got negative 3, 9, and negative 2, 4. Okay, so those are some of the major points on y equals x squared. So if you want to transform something with just using h, so for example, y equals, let's do x minus 1 squared. Okay, so you can see that h is going to equal 1, which means I'm moving to the right 1. So I'm going to take all of these original points here, like 0, 0, I'm going to move it to the right 1, okay, so that new point is there. And then 1, 1 is going to move 1 to the right, so it's going to be here. And this negative 1, 1 is going to move to the right. And I'm just moving everything over to the right by 1. Okay, so you can see where those are coming from. And then I would connect my dots in a curvy and attractive manner as much as possible. It's really difficult with my tablet. And I can label that y equals x minus 1 squared. Okay, so that would be a left-right translation. If I wanted to do y equals, let's say, x plus 2 squared, right? So you can see this is the same thing as x minus negative 2, right? So this is h is equal to negative 2, which means I'm going to move to the left by 2. Okay, so again, I'm going to take all of my parent points, right, like 0, 0. I'm going to move it left 2, 1, 2, and I would draw them in. So I'm just taking all these points and moving them to the left by 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. From the original, so from the black line, right? So, and then I would connect the dots in a curvy and attractive manner if I could figure out which ones were which. This is why it's good to work with different colors. So x plus 2 squared. Okay, so that's moving left and right. Now, I'm going to just erase all that stuff and talk about k. So, sorry, it's going to take a little while. Just want to get rid of, I don't want to have too much stuff on my graph here. Okay, so let's talk about k. This is moving things up and down. Okay, sorry, I'm going to erase this because it's really annoying me. Okay, so this is, for example, something like, sorry, I got out of the screen somehow. Y equals x squared plus 1. So k is really straightforward. You can see k here is 1. It's positive 1. So you don't have to change the sign like you do with h. And this just means I'm going to move up 1, right? If I had x squared minus 4, then I'd have k equals negative 4, and that means I'm moving down by 4, right? So you're just taking, again, all of these black dots and you're moving them up or down or whatever. So 0, 0 is going to move up 1 to this point, right? And all these points are just moving up 1 to get me to my new points, okay? And then when I connect the dots in a curvy and attractive manner, as far as you're able, right? Then I get y equals x squared plus 1. So k is a little bit easier, all right? Now, a is probably the one that most people struggle with the most. Oops. So let's go and talk about that one. Just erase all this stuff because I cannot redraw. Okay. So, oops, I erased my flipping. Okay, so A is going to be about positive. Well, you have to think about if it's positive or negative. If it's negative, then you're going to be flipping on the y-axis. Okay, over the x-axis, so up and down vertically, and then stretching and compressing. Okay, so for example, y equals negative x squared. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the original points, I'm going to take all the y values, and I'm going to multiply them by a. Okay, so in this case, a is equal to negative 1. So to find the new points, I'm going to just multiply all the y values by negative 1. So here, y is 0, so 0 times negative 1 is 0. Okay, here, y is 1, so 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. 4 times negative 4, times negative 1 is negative 4. And 9 times negative 1 is negative 9, but I don't have space on my graph, so I'll just leave that one alone. Connect the dots in a curvy and attractive manner. This is y equals negative x squared. Okay, so I'm just multiplying all the y values by a, and I'm leaving my x values alone. Okay, so you can see how they're right above each other, right? See how they're they line up like that? Okay. So then let's say I wanted to do something like y equals 2x squared. Okay, so in this case, a is equal to 2. And this is going to be a stretch, a vertical stretch by 2. Okay, so I'm going to stretch it, and it's a vertical stretch. And the vertical part is really important because sometimes when you think of a stretch, you think, oh, it should get fatter, but actually I'm pulling it upwards, right? So if you think about taking your problem, pulling it from the ends, then it's going to get closer together because it's getting tighter, right? So again, I'm going to multiply all my y values by 2. Okay, so here is 0, 0. 0 times 2 is 0. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. And 9 times 2 is 18. That's not on my graph, so I'm just going to connect what I've got. And we usually want to have about 5 points. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you need at least 5 points. Y equals 2x squared. I'll label it. And that's it. So you can see it's skinnier because it's getting stretched upwards. Okay. So that's a vertical stretch. You can also get a vertical compression, and that's if the number is less than 1. Okay, so for example, y equals 1/2 x squared. Okay, so a equals 1/2. So this is a vertical compression. So I'm squishing it down by 1/2. Okay, So I'm taking, again, my black points. I'm going to take the y values. I'm going to multiply them by 1/2. So 0 times 1/2 is 0. 1 times 1/2 is 1/2, right? 4 times 1/2 is 2. And 9 times 1/2 is 4.5. 9 over 2. So now I've got 7 points on my graph, which is enough because I only asked for 5, really. Connect the dots in a curvy and attractive manner. This is y equals 1/2 x squared.